What is up, guys, and welcome back to another early F1 22 gameplay video. Today we're doing a full 100% race around the Austrian Grand Prix in the wet, driving as Lewis Hamilton. If you guys want to see more of my F1 22 gameplay, hit the link in the description. You guys can see some VR gameplay, Miami gameplay, plus much more. So hit the like and subscribe button, and let's get stuck into a full-length Grand Prix on the new game.
Welcome to Spielberg for another exciting Formula One race. This circuit is renowned for its backdrop, surrounded by natural beauty, and it certainly is an idyllic destination for the Austrian Grand Prix.
So here we are at the back of the grid. Conditions absolutely atrocious. We're really going to put the cars to the test today, and myself. This game is quite brutal when it comes to actually extracting performance out of it with no assists on. As you can see, it's going to be raining for the entirety of the Grand Prix. We're going to take a lot of fuel out, see if we can get away with underfueling, whack the front wing up, because I think downforce really helps in these kind of conditions. So let's get to it.
Right then, the formation lap has started, and I must say the weather conditions aren't the best today for visibility and for grip. As each driver performs this lap, they'll be wanting to settle in and concentrate, as this race, in these conditions, will require a lot of focus. As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can, and they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, failing that, within the points.
All right, formation lap coming to a close now. As you can see, this is a new feature in the game, having broadcast formation laps, pit stops, safety car periods. The customization is getting a lot better with the F1 games these days. But here we are, ready to start a full-length Grand Prix on the F1 22 game from the back of the grid. Let's see where we end up at the end of the day. Pretty good start compared to Nicholas Latifi. Stroll getting a bit sideways. And we've got front wing damage already. Heading down into turn one, Latifi has gone into the side of Stroll. We've run into the side of Latifi, and that is game over for the Canadian. Here's the replay, and this is showcase the AI mistakes we're seeing so far in this game, which is lovely to see. Stroll having a moment, getting in the way of Latifi, then Latifi misjudges the braking points, going in too deep, loses his front left tyre, and that right there is simulation damage on show for you guys. It really is quite savage. It always has been, but yeah, you've really got to be protective of your front wing in the Formula One games when you turn the settings right up. So we've got no front wing. We're coming back to the pit lane now. Safety car has been deployed. Ooh, and even still, when I'm not pushing, I'm just limping back to the pit lane, you can still get caught out. No traction control on this game is no joke. Anyway, new front wing is on.
And away we go, no problems, very smooth. Mercedes will no doubt be very happy with that stop.
Interesting to note, the estimated tyre life is 44 laps, according to the game. So this will definitely be a one-stop race. Don't see how the strategy could change from there, unless the Inter is miraculously faster than the wet in these conditions. But we'll just have to wait and see. Where we go for green flag running once again. And we managed to recover a bit of fuel. We were at least a lap down on fuel. That safety car period has given us a little bit more margin to play with. So it seems like fuel burn isn't drastic so far in this early stage of the race. But we'll keep an eye on that and hope that we don't end up with 2 or 3 laps of a deficit in terms of fuel. Anyway, up the inside of Stroll into turn 3. And you can see it's very, very hard to lay down the power. I'm running with a wheel and pedals, but no traction control. I've got to say, when I go back to F1 2021, it's going to feel like I'm running traction control. It is no joke how delicate you have to be on that throttle pedal. Almost in like 5th, 6th gear sometimes. You're having to still modulate the throttle because it just generates that much wheel spin. And so much so, the same applies to the brakes. The brakes are, well, a little bit more sensitive. It's easier to lock up at times. maybe I was just a bit rusty. I was definitely rusty when I was filming this gameplay. It's been about nearly a week since I'd played an F1 game leading into this, so maybe it's not as bad as what I'm showing it to be, but it certainly is more difficult. That I'm certain of, compared to the old game. Anyway, early stage of this race, I am struggling. You can see I've lost touch to Lance Stroll. 4.5 second deficit was the worst that it got in this race. And then here on this lap, you can see even though I'm still losing the back end, I am managing to find a rhythm and find some pace relative to Stroll. I've now reeled him in by a second. And hopefully this is the start of us actually gaining some positions in this race. Watch my throttle trace as well through some of the low speed especially, but high speed as well. That you'll notice how much I'm just having to wait before going to full throttle. Not even going to full throttle in between the penultimate turn and the last turn. That's how crazy it is. Only in 6th gear am I really getting to full throttle. Anyway, we're now starting to push on a little bit more with some confidence. You can see losing the back end at very high speed. Turn 1, I've missed the apex there, and we've run wide onto the AstroTurf, and that's some floor damage. So that's a note from me. We're going to take a rewind, a flashback, and avoid 60 laps of pain. I do not want to be running with a car that has irreversible damage for the rest of a Grand Prix, so hope you guys can forgive me for that one. Anyway, whoa, there's another one. Good! We rejoin with the action. And this just showcases how difficult the game is. At this point, we're 13 laps deep into the race. This is not rust anymore. The race has been going for like nearly half an hour now, so I am fully used to this car and the conditions, but it's still, it's very testing on your patience with the throttle. That's the biggest takeaway you need to get from this video heading into F1 22.
Fantastic. 2 cars at once. Really well done.
Anyway, we did a nice little move around the outside of Guan Yu Zhou and Ricciardo. We then get Albon into the right-hander, which was lovely to see. One thing I was also struggling with in this race was I wasn't able to really hear my car locking up. You can hear it a lot clearer on F1 2021, but at least in this gameplay, I couldn't hear the tires locking. So I had to go on feel, and I had to go on even just looking at the tires sometimes. So that was definitely a factor in why I was locking up more often than what I usually would. But anyway, even with the struggles, we're still showing good pace. We're starting to really motor on through the field now. At least with the AI performance, there's not much difference between Vettel with a mistake there on Schumacher, forcing him to the inside and losing an end plate. Because the entirety of the field is so close, if you've got pace on everyone, or most cars. There's only maybe a second and a half difference between the fastest car and the slowest car. All subject to changes, of course, with the full game. But yeah, once I found pace, I was finding pace on everyone, and now we're just trying to safely get through the field, as that was a massive lockup into turn 3. Like I said, I'm struggling quite a bit in the key areas of driving, both throttle application and just tenacity under brakes. It is proving to be very difficult as we go around the outside of Schumacher there. That was absolutely lovely. I did think he had some front wing damage because we gained a lot on him on this lap. So almost certainly an issue for him there. We're now up in a P12. So yeah, it's the high speed corners where we're our strongest. We've cranked up the front wing. We're able to carry so much more speed. But the reason why I'm better in the high speed than the low speed is because there's less chance of locking up at high speed. We've got more downforce, and you don't need to be so sensitive on the throttle pedal. So it's really the low speed corners I was not necessarily losing out to the AI, but it was where I was weakest compared to them. They're perfect every corner, whereas me, I'm a work in progress. Trying to work on Lando Norris here down into turn 3. He might have an issue as well because he was very slow. I caught up to him quite nicely and then performed A very nice switchback. And now we're running side by side down the back straight, trying to overtake Norris up the inside into turn 4. And we want to leave him plenty of space. He goes up onto the curb, and that is game over in terms of laying down any good purchase with those rear tires. So here we are, approaching the big boys inside the top 10. That's the battle for P7, Ocon and Gasly. Don't like each other. I'm expecting some fireworks, but this is where things get a little bit more tricky as we get a warning for track limits.
Well, it looks like we'll have this downpour throughout the session. Heavy rain conditions to remain right on through to the end.
That was it was a fair corner cut warning, to be fair, but it was just very close. Anyway, oh, that's a massive moment out of the last corner. We've got a puncture on the right rear. Oh, and we lose the rear again. We're in the wall. Hamilton might potentially be out of this race, and that is all because of a back-end loss out of the last corner. I said I've been struggling with the tires. Tire lets go. Not once, but twice. So we already had the puncture, but then the carcass of the tire just completely collapsed on itself. This might well be a new puncture animation, because look at that. We had like 2 phases of puncture there, and then the second phase, it just completely threw us in the barrier. So that is very interesting that it's worked like. I've never seen that happen before. We are still in the race. 3 wheels on our wagon. Safety car is deployed. We're nearly a lap down. That's the race leader right behind me. And we've got to nurse this thing back to the pit lane to stay in this race, guys. And Sergio Perez overtakes me under safety car. Is that allowed? I don't think that's allowed. We're a lap down now with 45 laps remaining in this race. Oh! Nearly killed Stroll. It's absolutely fine. And into the pit lane we go for a change of front wing. That was very interesting. Very, very interesting to see that happen. I wonder if that's a wet thing or the fact that the game is a lot more tricky with wheel spin. Is that a wheel spin thing? I don't think so. I think that might be a new thing in the handling, potentially. I've not heard anything about that, but that's my experience. That's what happened. Anyway, I went on to intermediate tires just to try out the tire, see if it was faster. We're already a lap down now, so there's nothing to lose. But the instant wasn't as fast. It was still drivable, but I think we would have been a couple of seconds a lap slower than what we were on the wets. So we went back to the wets, and we actually didn't lose anything. There was a big gap to the cars behind. I got my track position back, so I did an extra pit stop. We're on fresher, wet tires compared to these guys, and now our goal is to get back on the lead lap in this 100% race. 40 laps to go, and this has now become a lap down challenge. I think there's one thing on my side, though. It's that the race leaders might need to do another stop, and very soon, so that might promote us back onto the lead lap. Anyway, here we go for an overtake on Sergio Perez. He did stop recently, going from 1st to 4th, so we've at least got past him. And like I say, if we're faster than some of these guys at the front, we're faster than everyone, I hope, because the pace is so similar with these 22 cars. As we try and go around the outside of Albon. This is actually for position, but Albon's getting blue flags. I don't care about the blue flags. If I submit to blue flags, it's game over in this race. I'm going to risk getting a penalty to try and pull away from the race leaders, who are now in the pit lane. That is the Ferraris and the Red Bulls into the lane. That is, I think, Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen who made their stops. So, we are now back on the lead lap. That is Sergio Perez right behind us, the race leader, after those guys making their stops, and now we're just trying to pull away. Purple to the 3rd sector if you were eagle-eyed enough on that last lap. They've also adjusted the track limits through, or not adjusted the track limits, but they painted a white line through that double left-hander in the middle sector, which makes the track limits a lot more visible. So that's really nice to see. I'll point out the corner when we get to it. That's a welcome change. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix!
Good job. That was the fastest lap of the race so far.
That's some signs of life in this race. We're finally finding some pace, and we're starting to make some adjustments now. We were running 100 diff, and I think maybe that was detrimental to our pace. Maybe it was causing more snaps. You do, in theory, this is the corner with the white line right there. That wasn't there before, and so sometimes you get a warning and you wouldn't know where the track limit edge was. Now we do. Thank you, Codemasters. But anyway, I've lowered the diff because I think lower diff might help in the wet. The higher the diff is, in theory, the more traction you have at low speed. But that comes at a cost of when you do lose traction, you lose traction in a big way. So we're giving ourselves less traction in theory, but when we do have snaps, it'll be more progressive. So I've found that 70%, or the lower we lower the diff, the more traction, or actually the more traction I have, it feels nicer to drive in the wet. And one odd thing, which the esports drivers will definitely not tell you, because they want to maintain their pace advantage, I actually found that the car rotated better with lower diff, off throttle. I instantaneously, a few laps ago, found 310s out of nowhere by lowering the diff. So that's a freebie for you guys. But yeah, the back end is still very sensitive. As we're really trying to push the limits now and trying to cut through these guys. Some of the back markers have made an extra stop in this race, and now they're fighting the realms of me. So we're on a fight back in this race. We're back on the lead lap. If there's another safety car, we're back in this. This is the fight for a podium. One of the Ferraris getting past, I think, Esteban Ocon. And now this is one of the Haas drivers ahead of me, promoting me into P12. Guan Yu Zhou is up next, and we're nearly having a repeat of our Puncture from many laps ago. Guan Yu Zhou going defensive in a turn one. We go round the outside! Deep under brakes, round the outside. We can carry the momentum, and that was probably the best move of the Grand Prix. Here's the onboard, the replay from Guan Yu Zhou. Look at him, he's looking in the mirrors a lot to see where I'm at. Looks to the right, the left, and there's nothing he can do to defend against that. When you pinch it on the inside, that's a perfect move. Very, very satisfying move. And now we're P10. We are in the points. Sergio Perez pushing on with the 17-1. He's got fresh tyres on now. Ours are getting a bit worn. We're actually in P11, so scratch that. Trying to catch up to Tsunoda. And now that's Guan Yu Zhou, the man we just overtook, has got a mechanical failure in this race, and the safety car has been deployed. This is exactly what we needed in this race to bring us back on level terms with the race leaders. On to another set of wet compound tyres. I realize I'm editing the video very fast, but I'm running out of time in this race to show you everything. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, and I'm still only at the start of the lap. As we try and get past Vettel, who's driving very slowly. We need to get on with it.
Give that position back, mate.
We need to get on with it because the race leaders are going back to green flag running. The safety car came in early and we've been screwed over by the safety car. And I will say, on the last safety car, the lap cars were not allowed to unlap themselves. I was hoping that would be a feature in F1 22. Not the case. So we got screwed over with that last safety car, not being brought onto the lead lap for a lap car. And then this safety car, we weren't allowed to catch up to the back of the queue. So Lewis Hamilton in 22 is always unlucky with a safety car, and it continues into the game as well. This game is very realistic. Anyway, we're cracking on. 8 laps to go in this race. No help really from the FIA to get us a good result. We've been trying to dig ourselves out of trouble. It's been a real uphill battle, but we're getting close to the points now, guys. We are so close. 8.5 seconds to the points runners. We're cutting through the McLarens now, as the pace we have on the wet tire is proving to be very strong. We're about, I don't know, 10 laps newer tires than those around us, maybe more. As we get to the back end of this race, our fuel burn has been pretty good. We're running with lower fuel than pretty much everyone else, so there is that pace advantage as well. I'm getting more and more in the groove with this car, this track, and this game. As Tsunoda goes defensive down into turn 3. We're going to get up the inside and into the points now. Someone made a stop a few laps ago, and that's promoted us into the points, and now we're just taking extras. This is Sergio Perez winning the Austrian Grand Prix, and we're going to come home in P9.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Not a bad recovery, considering we were a lap down in this race. A couple safety cars came out, but really, they didn't help us as much as I thought they would. 29 seconds off the lead of the Grand Prix. All things considered, I think that's a great recovery in what is a 71-lap race. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. And that has been a full race on F1 22.